Hey everybody, I want to thank you first of all for your great participation in this class. Your discussions, really been enjoying following your discussions. The Hebert article is quite interesting. Hope you have enjoyed it. I've enjoyed your discussions about it. And I'll have a video next week about some thoughts I have about the excluded middle. And I didn't want to put the video in this week's module because I wanted you to have your discussions without being overly influenced by what I think about all of that. But I always include this chapter because even if we don't agree with all of it, it's very eye-opening. And most often the students do see at least Hebert's main point, that there's some stuff going on in the quote spiritual realm or the middle realm that at least United States Christians just have a hard time, seeing, knowing about, knowing what to do with because of the way we dichotomize so many things in our culture, especially related to science, kind of assigning categories. And not everything falls into neat categories. I mean, well, I won't go into politics. I was going to say something about how we've almost done that with limiting our choices to two parties in the states, but let's not go there. Anyway, so thank you for your discussions. I've enjoyed following them. Next week, we're going to in a sense, continue part of the theme of the Walls article from last week that talked about indigenizing the gospel. We're going to deal with a chapter in a book by Dean Fleming that you'll be reading where he talks about contextualization. And then I'll can't remember if it's a PowerPoint presentation or a video where I share some thoughts of Fleming from another chapter in his book that you're not assigned to read, but I would like you to hear his thoughts from that chapter. And so I've done a video about those thoughts so that you don't have to actually read the chapter itself. So I'm looking forward to this conversation continuing. It's about, the whole sort of interrelated questions of what is the pure gospel. If we sort of think we know what the pure gospel is, or at least some elements that we would call non-negotiable, what's the best way to share them in cultures that are different from our own? What's the best way to share them in cultures that emphasize different things than we emphasize, So, for example, in the video I did this week, some cultures focus more on shame than they do on guilt, etc. So I'm looking forward to next week's continuing with this theme with the Dean Fleming article and the discussions that come out of that. I've really enjoyed some of your comments this week on how you're going with your congregational research and how that's, for many of you, been almost a pleasant surprise. I hope that that's going to be the case for most of you, that you're going to find it something enjoyable besides just something that you have to do for class. I hope that you really benefit from it. Most of the students end up saying that they're really glad they did it. They don't really think that going into it because it's another thing to do. And, some of us feel uncomfortable doing it, that kind of thing, especially if we're introverts. And I understand that. I'm an off-the-chart introvert, so to go into a congregation you don't really know, that might be difficult. But anyway, thank you for what you're doing there, and just, keep doing that, and don't let the assignment pieces of all that sneak up on you. Pay attention to your syllabus, the due date for the ethnographic research part of that. And then the assignment that builds on the ethnographic research will be your congregational research paper. So far, I'm enjoying what I'm seeing in your post about your research. If you haven't started yet, wow, you need to start. If you haven't picked a congregation yet, a few of you have asked me about, can I research a non-Christian congregation? Can I research a Jewish synagogue, a Buddhist temple? I think one student asked me, maybe that was from a previous semester, I don't remember. There's a lot that kind of goes by the wayside as you get older. So I just try to hang on to the stuff that's most important. I needed to check with some powers that be at Asbury because I haven't heard that question very often. If you haven't picked your congregation yet to research, you really do need to pick it and get started. The answer is you can research a Jewish synagogue without question. No problems whatsoever. If you want to research some type of a congregation that's not Christian, other than a Jewish synagogue, for example, a Buddhist temple or, a Muslim mosque, something like that, let me know and we'll talk about it. The powers that be say they will not have a problem with that, but in your congregational research paper, you would need to pay particular attention to how you would contextualize some communication of the gospel in that setting. So that would sort of be the additional caveat if you decided you wanted to do that. Okay? So anyway, that's all I need to say, I think, today about the ethnographic research. I do want you to know that next week I'm going to change the groups up just a little bit. Some folks have had to drop from the course, so some of the groups have fewer numbers than others. And I'm not going to make wholesale changes, but each group I'm probably going to pull 2 or 3 people out, probably not more than 2, and just put them in a different group. So most of you will have almost the same group, except for the 2 people who get moved. And I will ask your permission before I do that. I'll email the students individually before I move them. And so I will ask your permission to do that. I won't do that without you saying it's okay with you. Okay? I hope you are being blessed, and I pray that you'll continue to be blessed as you go through the semester with this course and any other courses you have, and of course just your life in general. For those of you who haven't noticed on the news, North Carolina has experienced a lot of devastating flooding, and some of our students are from that area. So let's not only be in prayer for all those along the Florida and South Carolina coast who were hit by the hurricane, but also just all the flooding, the interior flooding in North Carolina that resulted from the hurricane. Okay, thanks everybody. God bless.